Praise God once again that you've all decided to join us here this Friday evening. All of you, including your service team, could have been anywhere tonight, but you've all chosen to answer God's invitation, and for that we are all thankful. And know this, sisters and brothers, as part of this program, as part of this CLP, we are all praying for you and are happy that you've joined this journey with us. And that brings us to tonight's topic, loving God, loving your neighbor. And even before the CLP began, more than 4 weeks ago, your service team had already been praying for you. After all, this is only one of the great gifts that we can give to you, our neighbors, to pray for each other. What better way for us to show how much we love God, to show how much we love each other, to love our neighbors, than to pray for each other? So before I begin, let me introduce my family. Clarissa, Trista, and Sis Mercedes. Mercedes and I were both born in Toronto, living most of our lives in Mississauga before moving to Paris a couple of years ago. We've been married since 2003, but dated forever. All in all, we've been together for close to 30 years. I'm not good at math, but that sounds about right. We have 2 beautiful girls, Clarissa and Trista. We've been a part of this community for just about 6 years, and are glad that all of you are now here to join us in this journey. We're not perfect, but the 4 of us are perfectly matched. I wouldn't have it any other way. And as we go through this journey of getting closer to God and getting to know Him better, we're all glad and happy that you've all decided to join us. So we're going to start this off with an activity. I'm going to go through certain scenarios, different scenarios, and what I want you to do individually is just think about how you might react in this situation. And I don't want you to think about it in a sense of what would a Christian do, but rather, what would you personally do in that scenario? You don't have to share these responses. It's just something for you to reflect on. Not all of the scenarios will be simple and straightforward for you to respond to, but the intention of this activity is to get you thinking, reflecting. Remember, Jesus is in every one of us, and Jesus calls us to help each other. You pull into the parking lot at church on Sunday, and you see a beggar at the entrance. That neighbor of yours that you just don't get along with. You come home and you see his garbage cans rolling down the street. You pick them up. You're in line at the grocery store or at the fast food checkout, and you notice the person in front of you is short to pay their bill. You see them starting to return some of their groceries or change their order. What do? It's Sunday. You're getting ready for Mass. And then your best friend calls you up to say, "I've got tickets for the game. We're leaving in 15 minutes. Are you going?" So let us begin. You love God. You love your neighbor. Those 2 things are inseparable. It is what we are called to do. So last week, Tita Jerry reminded us, according to the book of John, we need to learn to love each other the way Jesus loved us. We can't say that we love God while wishing the worst on others. I'm in a Blaze t-shirt wearing, crucifix around the neck bearing, Sunday Mass going God-loving Christian, and Couples for Christ community member, and yet I ignore that guy on the street looking for a handout. I tell my coworker I'm too busy to help him because really, I don't want to see him succeed. I say no to my pastor in the church when they ask for volunteers for this weekend. I ignore my vocation to my wife and my kids as a husband and a father so I can go hang out with my friends. It doesn't really work this way. To love God and not care for your neighbors is not what we are called to do. If we say that we love God, then let's follow His commandments. Let's love one another. So what does it mean to be a Christian? Praying being generous, helping others, being humble, forgiving, being faithful. These are all traits that are not unique to being Christian. I know a lot of great families that pray, that love each other. They're Hindu, and they're Jewish, and they're Muslim. As a Christian, we believe in Jesus and follow in his footsteps. Like his apostles over 2,000 years ago, we are called to share his word. We try and strive to put God first in everything that we do, putting him at the center of our lives, the center of our family. We talk to him through prayer. And at the end of the day, as we reflect, we listen to him. As Christians, we build a relationship with God. I think a lot of us understand that loving God should be our highest ideal. But do we do it? We prioritize our jobs, our finances, and friendships. And none of this is wrong, but no more important than the Lord himself. I'm not going to take this time downplaying the importance of understanding your finances or putting effort into your careers, but rather I'll use a different example. Let's think about the Christian sports fan. Maybe a lot of us here like basketball or volleyball. Living here in Ontario, you're going to learn to love the Leafs if you don't already do. So as a Leafs fan, what does this mean? About a month ago, a lot of people across this province prioritized their weekly schedules just to make sure they didn't miss a minute of the game. It doesn't matter that the Leafs make a habit of getting kicked out of the first round every single season. As a Leafs fan, we're called to suffer. Even though we know they won't make it out of the first round, we're willing to suffer through those games. It's not the type of suffering that God calls us to do. We do everything we can to make sure we catch those games. Why? Because we love our team, blue and white. But how much more do we love God? Even though we spend all the time scheduling our weeks so that we don't miss a game, sitting through hours of suffering, watching them get eliminated in the first round again, and yet sometimes we don't even want to spend 60 minutes on a Sunday at church. We come up with excuses. If loving God is our highest ideal, then why do we find it so hard to go to church on Sunday? Why do we find it so hard to give service? Why do we find it so hard to love our neighbor? It's fair to say that we can all do more. The book of Mark chapter 12 says, "You shall love your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength." So let us be committed to him by putting him first. Put him number one, and you'll begin to love better, love stronger, strengthen your relationships, and feel his presence every day in your life. But know this, even in putting God first, your Leafs are still going to get knocked out in the first round. We show love to God by putting ourselves at disposal to his will, by doing his work. Maybe it's volunteering time at the blood donor clinic, or at a soup kitchen, or finding out what the pastor needs at your parish. Some of us in the community put time towards ANCOP in answering the cry of the poor. I've even known some of our brothers and sisters to give away retirement land in the Philippines for the good of the church. We have plenty of time, brothers and sisters. It's never too late to start thinking, what can I personally do to serve God better? So what does it mean to love your neighbor? Sometimes it's easy. Like if you live on a great street like I do, Mr. Muhammad on the other side of this wall, how often does he bring us fresh samosas that his wife makes? Or even dessert whenever they're celebrating? Rich over on that side, he's always calling me out to join him for a bike ride or hang out in the garage. Ryan on the other side of the street over there, always calling me over for drinks. You've got Mr. Yao, you've got Quadri, and all the rest in this neighborhood, It's easy to show them love. It's easy to help them out. It's easy to do God's work around them because they're all awesome people, all awesome neighbors. But loving God, loving your neighbor, means more than just helping those awesome people. It means more than just helping those that we totally get along with. We also show love to God, to our neighbors, by caring for those even closer to us. Our family is our first household. Our vocation is to our spouse and our children. We have other friends and co-workers that we need to pray for and help when they need us. And not always tell them that we're busy when they give us 5 weeks notice to let them know that they're moving, they need our help. So at this time, I'm going to give you all a break from my voice and from this face. My wife, Sister Mercedes, is going to share with you what it means to love our neighbors. Not just the easy, awesome people, like I said, that live on the street, but share with you her experiences with loving that difficult neighbor. Thank you for sharing that, Sister Mercedes, my wife, my partner, my loved one. And so who can we turn to? Who is that model for us to understand what it means to love God, to love our neighbors? Jesus and Mary. Our Mama Mary said yes to God with no reservations. She traveled hundreds of miles on foot through rough terrain to help out her cousin in need when she was pregnant. Jesus himself didn't only show love to those who followed him, but to the lepers and the prostitutes and the tax collectors. If we are to truly love God and love our neighbor, then we need to love like Mary, love like Jesus. And so, like the horizontal parts of the cross, extended outwards towards your sisters and brothers, towards your family members, towards your co-workers, neighbors, families and friends, any troubles that you know that they may have. Maybe it's a co-worker that you just don't get along with. Maybe it's a family member that's lost their way. Maybe it's a couple that you know that's having struggles in their marriage. Sisters and brothers, this is how we as Christians show love to our neighbors. Through prayers. It's the one gift that we can give them. It doesn't cost us a thing. Lift it up all to the Lord. Pray for them. And with that, may God be praised.